Hi, welcome to the OHMazing Way podcast. I'm Beth Reese. I'm the host and also the founder of Yoginios Yoga for Youth. And today we have another very special guest. I know I always say they're special, and the truth of the matter is they are always very special. We have Sebene Selassie, who is joining us from New York. Sebene, how are you today?
I'm well. Thank you.
So grateful and honored you are here today. And so many of you know, I participated in a 7-day silent retreat a few months ago, and I created a podcast reflecting on my amazing experience there. And so just want to share the moment I recall meeting, using air quotes, use 7A, it was even before the retreat started, and I was walking, and I think I was practicing like what it would like to be completely mindful and silent. And I'm walking and I look up and you were right in front of me with this just stunning, like shining smile. And it literally took my breath away.
Oh, thank you.
And I just thought, like, wow, this is going to be so amazing. And I really had wanted to share that with you, because it was a moment that kind of like broke my nervousness about the retreat before it started. I thought, this is going to be joyful. That's what your smile brought to me. Like, I can do this. It's going to be joyful in it. And I really felt that way.
Oh, what a great story. I'm so glad. Sometimes we can take all this stuff so seriously, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was definitely when I share with people about my experience. And, people, in fact, a friend the other day thought, like, so were you like in caves with monks? Not exactly. And one of the first things I say is the retreat leaders were the wisest, funniest, group I feel like I'd ever met. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So friends and Sebene, let's take a few moments, and I love just to take time to get grounded and present to the moment, and share a few different ways in every podcast how we might do that. And of course, if one resonates with you more than the other, I invite you to pull it towards you and practice that. And so today, as we take our 3 breaths together, I'm actually going to acknowledge a practice that I learned from Sebene on one of her meditations that she leads through 10% Happier. And this practice I actually got to use the other day, and it's a way to ground through your body. And I had the pleasure of using it in an emotional conversation with a family, and it really helped keep me grounded.
Great.
Yes. So friends, if you'd like to find a comfortable sitting position, I like to uncross if I'm in a chair, I like to uncross my feet and just sort of ground into my seat. And if it's available to you, you could softly close your eyes or lower your gaze. Of course, if you're driving or washing dishes, don't, close your eyes. Wherever you are, just really know where you are and what you're doing. And so I'm softly closing my eyes and just take a moment and notice that there is the breath moving in and the breath moving out. And shifting your attention to your feet, noticing the feet on the earth, and breathing in and breathing out. I like to kind of wiggle my toes and move my feet to remind myself of this beautiful support that I always have from Mother Earth, no matter where I am. Next, let's take the attention to the hands, noticing whatever sensations you feel in the hands. And perhaps on this breath in, feel the love and kindness that's around you. And as you breathe out, extend compassion to yourself and others. Now taking our attention to our beautiful bellies, breathing in, noticing perhaps the belly expands, whatever sensations arise there. And as the breath comes out, noticing the belly softening, perhaps the body softening, and just noticing this moment and what's there in this sitting. As you're ready, softly flutter your eyes open. So, Sebene, I'm sure you know which meditation of yours I'm referring to. I think it's managing anxiety. And it's one, and I was so grateful for the moment when I was having a lot of emotional energy. And I was like, you just were there with me, like, hey, check in, get grounded. And it made it just a very much more easeful experience. And so, I always love to ask my guests about their experiences around mindfulness and a time in your life when the practices really helped inform your being. And Sebene, I'd love if you would share with us a time for you when that was so.
Yeah, it's hard to choose. For me, there have been so many, and I would say that mindfulness is just a meditation practice, and an awareness practice has shown up at different points in my life as teaching, and usually through some kind of embodied awareness of what's going on for me, through times of difficulty and challenge, but also times of joy when I can really experience what was happening more fully because I was fully present to it. And I would say that for me, it's always coupled with the Buddhist teachings of wisdom and having a deeper understanding of the whole of life. So bringing awareness to my present moment experience, but coupled with a deeper understanding of the nature of life. So I think when you said that, the first thing that popped into my head was various moments throughout my cancer journeys. I've had cancer 3 times. I was first diagnosed at the age of 34 with stage 3 breast cancer, and then 2 more times with stage 4 metastatic cancer. And I think that there were moments where I was either in deep pain. I can think of one time when I was in the hospital and had kidney failure, and was kind of waiting out to see what the doctors would decide in terms of surgery or not surgery, and what the intervention would be, and being in a lot of physical pain, and using the practice to actually know what was happening in the present moment. Often I find with pain or really difficult, challenging physical experiences, I'm actually future tripping. Like, I'm not actually experiencing what's happening in that moment, but I'm anticipating the pain getting worse or the situation becoming intolerable. But when I can actually feel into what's happening, I can sense that there is sensation, whether it's, hot or burning or sharp or stabbing or stinging. And again, like with joyous experiences, actually feeling like, exhilaration or vibration. And when I can do that, I'm actually in the experience more and not thinking about it and actually having a reaction to my idea about it, rather than actually really sensing what's happening in that moment. So at that time, I was having a lot of pain and trying to understand in an embodied and visceral way whether I needed pain medication, whether I needed to press the button and have the nurse come in. And in that moment, the wisdom came in because I had actually been reading an article. This was in mid 2000s. And I'd been reading in the half hour before about this woman in Darfur. There was an image in the New York Times of this woman who was dying, and her child was dying too from malnutrition. And the wisdom came in to help me recognize the profundity of suffering around the world and in the nature of being a human being, and my actually great fortune in having a button. So whereas I could have gone into sort of this self-pitying, why me, this is so painful, I'm not actually even really feeling the pain, but I'm angry about the pain or anticipating the pain getting worse, the mindfulness was allowing me to actually experience what was happening and make a judgment call over whether I really did need pain medication or didn't. And I think I didn't actually end up in that moment. I'm not saying I never did that during that whole week, but also have the wisdom to recognize the universality of pain and my great fortune in being in a body and in a culture and in this situation where I could actually have access to relieve that pain at the push of a button. So those kinds of marriages between my awareness met with the wisdom and compassion of these teachings that are underneath these practices of meditation have kind of saved me over and over again throughout my life since I've been practicing.
That's really remarkable, and I definitely acknowledge what the experience is of having cancer and 3 times, and grateful for your sharing around that, and I really hear and can imagine what you called future tripping.
Yeah.
And what thoughts or sharings might you have also about how you might identify when you're future tripping, for our listeners, when that's happening, in ways that you bring yourself back, and whether that's been back to the present, and whether that's been in the space of experiencing cancer, and perhaps also in daily life.
Well, if these teachings are ultimately about alleviating suffering, not pain, mind you, but suffering. So pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, and pain times resistance equals suffering. Anytime I'm suffering, so anytime I am experiencing some kind of resistance to my experience as it is, so often when I'm in the future, it's because I don't want to be in the present. Like I'm trying to outthink or outrun some current moment experience that is uncomfortable or painful or unpleasant in some way. So that could be actual physical pain and kind of strategizing how to get rid of it. And that could be anything from sitting in meditation and having a discomfort arise in the body, and then either just moving without thinking about it, so fidgeting basically, or planning my fidgeting. Like, should I move? Should I not move? Should I move? And I think it takes practice and time, because we don't want to put the body through experiences that are unnecessarily painful or potentially harmful. I do have friends who push through pain and sitting and injured themselves, and I know that happens in yoga and many other contexts as well. But it's learning to understand our habitual reactions to discomfort and unpleasantness, and learning sort of what is the appropriate response. And for me, that happens a lot on an emotional level as well. Being in conversation with my husband and him saying something and feeling a habitual pattern reaction come up, and not acting on it as often. So realizing that, so this is not quite future tripping, but I think it's the same kind of dynamic of trying to alleviate discomfort or unpleasantness by saying something that's cutting or biting or reactive. I think in terms of future tripping, Let's see, I'm trying to think of something in my life right now that brings that up. Well, I'm writing a book right now, and I can get into a lot of anxiety about not finishing it on time or not finishing it at all, or have a fear that I have nothing to say. And that is a very disembodied experience of writing. It's actually not writing. It's sort of just spinning in anxiety and stories, and prevents me from actually being in the moment of writing the book or attending to the things I need to attend to, like, going over what I've written in the past week, or planning out, when will be my writing times in the coming weeks, and really attending to the steps that I need to moment by moment in order to accomplish something like writing a book. I can get also into fantasizing about how amazing it's going to be when the book is finished without,
of course,
finishing the book. So there's all sorts of ways where we can live in the future, and not attend to what needs to be attended to in the present, or live in the past and go over the things we should have said or that should have happened, or outcomes that can't be because we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as you notice you're there, the noticing and bringing back to present, is there do you have like a go-to technique in your pocket that you use? And anything else to say around the self-compassion around that? I know I used to like beat myself up, and that's not very helpful. Yeah. So any thoughts about like that, the practical way you come back to presence?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the body is the key, because the body can't go into the past or the future. The mind, and even the heart, emotionally, we can future trip or past trip, but the body's always here. And the breath, if it's accessible to you, is so wonderful because it's always present. We can't necessarily always be in the same position, or we can't necessarily feel our seat if we're standing, or we can't feel our feet if our feet aren't on the floor. But there are certain touch points that are always available, like the hands or the belly, or the chest, and the breath. The breath is here as long as we're alive. So for me, I never underestimate the power of a deep inhale and exhale to reconnect me to my body and to the present moment, and to also relax me. There's something deeply powerful why the breath is so central to so many spiritual traditions. So that's really my way to come back to the present moment. And then in terms of the compassion part, really, again, the wisdom teachings being so important here, there's such a power in just understanding the nature of karma, like causes and conditions. There's no way I could be different than I am right now because of all of the causes and conditions that led to this moment. And all I can attend to is this moment to shift things for myself. So, without becoming goal fixated of some idea of how I should be, I do know that in this present moment, I have the opportunity to shift something. And it's just a waste of time to berate myself for not having done that before. There are causes and conditions as to why I am the way I am, including, uncontrollable causes like society, culture, family, epigenetics, all of the things that lead to the present moment being what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just reminded me of this moment I had a few days ago, and in this conversation with family, and I can, as I noticed, like just the energy and the trembling and shaking in my body and the emotion, and my habitual response would be to just go ballistic, right? Like, why not? And I just kept, you know, and I just kept noticing my breath and my feet and my belly and my hands, like, right, you were so there with me. And even in the moments that my voice did raise or there was an F-bomb dropped, it was like I immediately just went, come back. And then like Beth, love yourself. This moment is occurring, is difficult, and like really get what's happening in your body. And you know, and with that, trying to judge with, you know, trying to not judge, you know, what happened and didn't happen. What I do know is and there was a kind of marvelousness of what my body was experiencing, like as challenging as it was almost like this magic show is being revealed. Right. So
yeah.
Again, so thank you for all of your work. And you know, Sebene, before we break, I realized that I was so excited to dive in with you that I didn't read your bio.
Oh, that's better.
So what I'll do is I'll figure that out on the front end or on the back end. But I just want to acknowledge like that I just like, you know, wanted to dive right in and be with you. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back on the other side, Sebene will share with us one of her meditation practices, and we'll hear more about what she's up to in this world. So we'll be right back.